friends, today we're going to read chapter 9 in our novel, Pugs of the Frozen North. When we left off yesterday, they had just encountered a Yeti. A Yeti is kind of like a big monster who lives in snowy places. No one knew how the Yetis had come to that place. They had arrived with the good ship Hope when it ran, or had they arrived with the good ship Hope when it ran aground and was abandoned there? Or had they come loping through the frozen sea one true winter and decided that the wreck of the lost Hope would be a good place to live? As for what had given them the idea to open a noodle bar, well, that was easy. There were 50 different types of snow in true winter, and the type that fell on the island was a very special type that could be made into beautiful noodles. It made very nice spaghetti too, but the Yetis had decided that the Yeti spaghetti bar sounded too obvious. At first, Sika was a little bit scared of being captured by a Yeti, but once she realized that it only wanted her to come and eat some noodles, she calmed down. She really liked noodles. The Yeti took her by the hand and led her across the snow toward the ship. It was a large Yeti and looked very Yeti-ish, with long white hair, big feet, glowing eyes, you know the type. As Sika followed the Yeti up the side of the ship, she wondered if she could tell it that Shen was nearby and ask it if she could go and get him so that he could have some noodles too. Then she decided to wait until she'd tried them herself. They might be gross, and nobody likes to be woken up in the middle of the night for gross noodles. I know I don't. The decks of the Lost Hope were glossy with ice, but down inside, in the old ballroom, there was warmth and light. Candles made from Yeti earwax flickered there, and the Yeti dung fire burned merrily in an igloo-shaped stove. Long tables had been set up in the middle of the ballroom. There sat Mitzi Von Prim, Helga Hammerfest, Shackleton Jones, and a whole load of Yetis, all digging into big bowls of snow noodles, while Yetis wearing flowery aprons carried yet more noodles in through the swinging doors that led to the kitchen. These doors had round glass windows in them. Sika peered through as her Yeti dragged her past them. She saw Yetis shoveling snow out of big buckets while others packed into fat snowballs and stuffed them into mincing machines. They all took turns to crank the handle of the machine, and the long white noodles came writhing out of it like worms. And as the Yetis worked, they sang. We're in the moodles for some noodles, no rusk or apple strudels, which only fit for poodles. We don't mean to be rudels, we just want our favorite foodles. Noodles, noodles, noodles. Sika's Yeti pulled out a chair for her and she sat down between Mitzi Von Prim and Shackleton Jones. From the other side, Helga Hammerfest called, Yoo-hoo! Welcome to the Lost Hope, Sika. You must try these noodles. They're delicious, agreed Mitzi Von Prim, but I mustn't have any more. I'm watching my figure. Delicious indeed, agreed Shackleton Jones, but I'd best be on my way. I mean, to beat you good people to the top of the world. But just then a Yeti plonked a big dish of noodles down on the table, and Mitzi and Shackleton took huge helpings for themselves, just like everybody else. Sika took some too. She was surprised at how nice they tasted. She'd expected them to be a little, well, snowy. But they weren't. They were hot and nutty and delicious. So you can see all the Yetis with all their delicious noodles. And the next page is just pictures of all of them having this big noodle feast. The Yetis and the people. For a while, the only sounds in the old ship were of people and Yetis chewing and swallowing and saying, mmm. Oh, and one other sound, a small voice urgently buzzing, like a very polite alarm clock. Something's wrong, said Snowbot, looking up at Sika from under the table. These noodles are a little too tempting. That Shackleton's been here for hours now, eating and eating them. It's as if he's forgotten all about reaching the top of the world, and he doesn't even like noodles. Sika thought about that. It did sound as if something strange was going on, but it was hard to work out what, because the noodles tasted so lovely. They kept distracting her. These must be mind-controlling noodles, Snowbot was saying. The Yetis mean to keep you here as their slaves. Said Sika. helping herself to some more noodles, and then suddenly all the noodles were gone. More noodles! Roared the Yetis at the table, and their human guests all joined in. More noodles! So everyone chanting for noodles. Just coming, said one of the Yeti chefs, gathering up the empty bowls and the dirty forks and spoons and chopsticks. But first, you travelers must pay for the noodles that you've already eaten. What? Cried Mitzi. You never said anything about paying. You didn't think they'd be free, did you? Growled the Yetis. The sign outside says noodle bar, not free noodles. Do you take major credit cards? Asked Shackleton Jones. Cash only, said the Yeti chef, and the other Yetis rose to their feet and looked down menacingly at their guest. That means in a scary way, who suddenly felt very small and a little frightened, and yet at the same time still hungry for more noodles. If they can't pay, said one of the Yetis, there's only one thing for it. They're going to have to do the dishes. He kicked open the double door into the kitchen. The last time she peeked in, Seek had been too interested in the snow into noodles machine to notice much else. Now she saw that the far side of the kitchen, where the sink was piled from floor to ceiling, with teetering stacks of bowls and plates, jugs, saucepans, forks, spoons, trays, all smeared and crusted with years of dried-on pieces of noodles. Those Yetis loved making noodles, and they loved eating noodles, but they absolutely hated washing up. Do the dishes, they chanted, picking up their human captives and carrying them toward the kitchen. Do the dishes! And the humans were too full of noodles and too afraid that the Yetis might not allow them any more noodles to resist. So this is why no one ever returned from the lost hope, thought Sika, as big Yeti hands lifted her out of the chair and carried her toward the kitchen. They get lured in with noodles and then they have to stay here, washing dishes for the rest of their lives. She looked around and saw Snowball watching her. He wasn't at all interested in noodles, so the Yetis weren't interested in him. She beckoned him closer, and while her Yeti was lining to carry her into the kitchen after the others, she whispered quickly, Shen's camped not far away. Tell him not to come here. Tell him to keep going all the way to the top of the world. Snowball hurried off on his mechanical legs. The Yeti lurched toward the kitchen with Sika, and the doors swung shut behind her. So Sheikah's there telling the robot to tell Shin to go to the top without her. And we'll find out if he makes it tomorrow.